We could go all kinds of different directions
You've
with it
teased
today.
it now twice. We'll get him. We'll get him to do it later.
Either way, we're here, and we're hopping into round 2. We've got Ian Elletson facing off against Matthew Welsh for game number 2. If you're just tuning in, we just completed our first matchup between Dana Fisher and Adam Eade. Adam Eade was able to come out on top with a 2-0 victory. But at the top of this matchup, we're actually in game 3 for this round for Matthew Welsh and Ian Elletson.
Yeah, we're still in round 1 here. We're just popping over to another table. Game 3 here, it's Orzhov versus Rakdos. Matthew Welsh on your left looks to be a nice low-to-the-ground white-black deck, maybe taking advantage of a wayfaring zombie there, getting a nice drain every time a creature comes into play. And Ian Elletson on the other side of the table, he's got Rakdos, and one of the cards that I was really kind of keyed into about this cube is Gev Scaled Scorch. It's a new card from Blemberg, black-red for a 3-2 with Ward, pay 2 life. Whenever you cast a lizard spell, Gev deals a damage to target opponent. So that's, again, any creature spell you cast. And when other creatures you control enter with an additional counter on them for each opponent who lost life this turn. So basically, you got Gev in play, and every other creature you control is going to ping your opponent as they come in and have a counter on them. So really strong there. Really
dangerous card to get in nice and early. It's just going to put an early clock on your opponent here, as Rakdos does.
Looks like from Ian Elletson, he's going to go tutor up a Lazier Goblin. It's a single red for a 2-1. When it enters the battlefield, it deals 2 damage to any target, and it has Motivate for 3 and a red. Can't attack or block unless you've paid its Motivate cost once. So that's what he went and tutored up there with, I believe that's just a 1-mana tutor spell. Katarin's Summon, single black, search for a mercenary card, reveal it, put it into your hand, then shuffle. That Laser Goblin. What do you think of those? What do you think of those test cards?
Test cards, some of them are really goofy. We saw Sliv Mizzet in the draft earlier, and I literally threw my head back laughing when I saw Sliv Mizzet. But I don't think we've seen an Izzet deck just yet on stream today. The test cards, they make for some really goofy interactions, especially in this Changeling cube, where, again, if you're just tuning in, all creatures and all decks share all creature types in all zones.
So Archpriest of Iona was Matthew's turn 1 play here, and Amaroon Scout, a follow-up, 1 and a white, 2-1. It's this like rebel mercenary search thing, but again, all creatures are all types, so you just find it. Amaroon Scout says you can pay 4 mana tap to search for a rebel permanent card with mana value 3 or less from your library and put it into play.
Oh, so we're just putting it right into play every time. So we're just searching up
3-drop or less whenever we want for 4 mana. That's instant speed too. Now, will it survive? We'll see. The Laser Goblin, Ian decided, that's going to target the Archpriest of Iona. That's a card I'm more worried about than I am worried about this Amaroon Scout for now. I will say both of these players being a little deeper in black than Dana was, and one of them, Ian Elletson, being in red-black, perhaps removal will be a bit more plentiful for him in those colors.
I'm thinking so. I think that we'll see a much more interactive game this time around. We are taking a look at the draft for these two players as we speak and getting an idea as to what kind of non-creature spells we can see in this actually very heavily creature-based cube. We're seeing these powerful tutor effects coming into play. We're seeing just how clutch a nice timely Path to Exile can completely turn a game around.
Oh my gosh, so true. Well, luckily, Cube is singleton, at least in terms of Path to Exile in this cube.
Right, so no more here.
We won't be dealing with that here in Matthew or Ian's deck. Looks like the Rebel's just getting turned sideways. But the Laser Goblin can't be blocked. It has to have that 4 mana effect paid for it to be able to engage in combat that way. And Dewdrop Cure, another new card from Blemberg that can find or return 2 creatures from your graveyard with mana value 2 or less from the graveyard to the battlefield. Just going to go ahead and say, hey, a 3-mana Archpriest of Iona, that's worth it to me. I'm just going to get that now.
It's a big deal. Get that flyer in. Once you get that party set up, you got the flyer.
So 2 members of the party. Interesting to note, so there are cards that care about creature type. Well, all you have is 1 creature in play, and it's every type.
Right.
Archpriest of Iona, party does need 4 distinct bodies.
That's right.
To fill up the party. So that is a nice quirk nuance here with how party works in the Changeling cube.
Right. 2-drop coming into play here.
Yeah, that's a Munitions Goblin or Munitions Expert, whatever the Rakdos 2-drop is called here. Munitions Expert, black-red 1/1 flash. When it enters, deals damage equal to the number of goblins you control. to target creature or planeswalker. Going to pick off the Rebel before it has a chance to tutor up any friends.
Big stop.
Yeah. And again, like, what is that? That's both 2 creatures that are removal spells for Ian. That's more than Dana deployed in either game. I mean, the
Did not have the opportunity, right?
Removal is scarce in the cube, full stop. It was scarce, I think, a little bit in our first matches decks. But we're seeing the tables turned and Ian having no problem. You know, Matthew's saying, hey, threat, threat, threat. And Ian's saying, okay, answer.
Yeah, huge value to have it on a body.
Mm-hmm. More party time.
So we're tapping 4 for what looks like a squad commander.
Yeah.
This is going to be really strong when that party gets going because you're able to pump your creatures and by just +1 power. But the more important part of that is going to be giving them indestructible until end of turn. So you can just keep slamming through, and Ian is going to have to respond and lose some creatures.
But I feel like, doesn't he make 2? So when it enters, you make a 1/1 warrior for each creature in your party. I believe you should have 2, and then he has a full party, unless I'm misunderstanding how.
No, you're right. That should, because it's 2. These are 2 different creatures. You'll have 2 party members. It should be 2 tokens on the battlefield.
And then at the beginning of combat on your turn, if you have a full party, your creatures get +1/+0 and gain indestructible, which is massive. I'm unclear. I'll trust the folks down on the floor more than I'll trust myself in these nuanced rules. Our judge, a huge team of judges today, we have to shout them out, as I'm sure we will many times this weekend throughout this 4-day event. I'm sure that they are well-versed in, in the interactions between the sort of nuances and the narrow corner cases of these cubes with rule changes. And there I mentioned it, Gev. Come on down.
So Gev, every time a creature enters the battlefield on the side of Ian Elletson's board, they're going to get to do 1 damage to Matthew Welsh. Still sitting pretty at 20 life, just shy of a party, but with 4 open mana, some cards in hand, maybe we see a full party come in. That's going to give the squad commander triggered ability, a big, well, the activation of the triggered ability, of course. Big boost for the side of Matt Welsh, who is still up by 6 life. If you can get that 4th creature into play, you're going to have creatures that get that +1 power. They're also going to get indestructible until end of turn. And they're going to turn sideways, and there's not much you can do about it.
Yeah. Going to start things off here is Matthew Welsh with an Unearth. He says,
okay.
Wow, 2 reanimation spells so far for Welsh. 1 getting back the Archpriest, 1 getting back the Amru Scout here. And Amru Scout threatening again, as if Ian Elletson isn't able to find a removal spell. And part of the great thing about what Matthew Welsh has assembled here is something that we in the limited community like to call keyword bad, right? Like, do you really want to use your removal spell on a 2-mana 2/1?
Right.
Do you want to use your removal spell on a 1-mana 1/2?
Doesn't feel great.
No,
but you
don't.
got to stop that party. You got to stop the party trigger, the triggered ability for party.
For sure. Well, and the other thing that Matthew's able to do is he presents these cheap threats and ways to recur these cheap threats, as Dewdrop, Cure, and Unearth are able to do, is he can double spell. You know, as he's tapping 1 mana for Unearth, he says, oh, I got 4. I got a bunch of other stuff I can do. So that puts a bit of a pinch. Oh, and are we going to see a Convoked Knight Errant of Eos here?
Oh.
We are. Just deciding how he wanted to distribute it.
So that's going to allow him to look at the top several cards of the deck here, put some creatures into hand.
Yeah, top 6 going to be looked at. Choose up to 2 with mana value 3 or less, because he ended up tapping 3. Whole mess of lands. I can see a Worthy Knight, one of our 2 cards that break singleton. It looks like perhaps, yeah.
That's a big deal.
Unfortunately, only 1 find there, but I think it may be enough. Worthy Knight, a card you're going to want to deploy early in the game so that you can make a stream of 1/1s, but in a deck where you can tutor up any 3-drop with your Amru Scout, well, it's not too bad to have it later on either.
Right. So I think we're at the moment waiting to see if there's a response here from the side of Ian Elletson. Matt Welsh does have the 2 mana to pay for this here. Knight Errant of Eos is the most expensive permanent we've seen cast thus far. Before that, it was Squad Commander, which is going to pull a lot of weight from Matt Welsh. So, shuffle. The card's going to go to hand.
Well, you gotta shuffle the bottom for decorum.
That's right.
That's what we do here.
That's right.
There's rules.
So,
Worthy Knight in hand, and I believe other than that Matthew Walsh is hellbent.
he is indeed.
So just the Worthy Knight in hand.
Okay, so Matt Welsh is communicating the party mechanic here. Right. Something's going to get flying.
Right, and it's also got not
+1/+1.
Right, not that Ian Elletson has a flying blocker, but because of the squad captain, it's also got +1/+0 and indestructible.
Yes. So flying and +1/+1 because of itself, and +1/+0 indestructible from the squad commander. It's going to get in there with unless they got removal, it's going to get in there and get some damage in.
Yeah.
And so there's 4 creatures in the party, so it's 4 damage base, +2, that's 6 in the air.
It's a lot.
Yeah, bringing Ian down to 2.
It's not an insignificant amount.
Oh. Tapping to bring the Worthy Knight into play.
Going post-combat, Worthy Knight. And again, you don't have to be too trepidatious of overcommitting. That's one of, okay, and Ian Elletson extends the hand. And that is going to be the match going to Matthew Welsh here, as we did hop into Game 3. You saw 1 game apiece. Those were, I got to say, after talking to Tim, those were the kinds of games that I was expecting to see. Blisteringly
fast, right? Wide board state, going for the Anthem-esque effects. We saw it from Squad Commander. We saw the Archpriest of Iona as well, getting in there for the last bit of damage to cause Ian Elletson to concede it 2 life. And so that's going to be the game. Matt Welsh is going to come up 2-1.
Yeah. Yeah, those were the kinds of decks that I would like to think that I would have drafted if I were in those seats. Those were some powerful decks. Like getting the cheap creatures like Munitions Expert coming in and being like, I'm a body that affects the board that is going to count towards other things that care about creature types, plus kill your best thing.
Exactly that. And the value was there for those creatures on ETB, but that wide board state and the party effect really coming into play for the side of Matt Welsh, and he was just that much stronger in combat. So we're going to go for a short break before we get into round 2. Stay tuned. This is CubeCon 2024. Thank you so much for joining us. We'll be back in a minute.